Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Chemical Kinetics, Module 5, Lecture 2. This is Mallika Pathak from Miranda House, University of Delhi. The academic expert of the course is Dr. Amrita T. Sheikh, and the recording is being done under the DTH Swayam Prabha project of the MHRD, New Delhi. Now, in the previous class, we took a look at the mechanisms of complex reactions like opposing reactions, sequential reactions, and competing reactions. Today, we are going to start a very important topic from kinetics, which is called as catalysts. So, what are catalysts? We are going to take a look at that. How do they perform their action? What are the various kinds of catalytic reactions? Then we will take a kinetic look at the acid-base catalysis and the enzyme catalysis, followed by a summarization of the today's topic. So, what are catalysts? Now, it is indeed a fascinating aspect of chemistry that certain reactions which do not proceed to completion even when carried over an indefinite period of time get completed within a matter of minutes or seconds when a small quantity of a foreign substance is added to them. This foreign substance is known as a catalyst. So, a catalyst is defined as a substance which increases the rate of a reaction without undergoing any chemical change and can be recovered as such after the completion of the reaction. So what happens is when we use a catalyst will increase the rate of the reaction. There will be no chemical change in the catalyst itself. There may be some physical changes that may take place in a catalyst. The amount of catalyst will not change. The concentration of catalyst will not change during the course of the reaction. That means the amount that you started with initially would be recovered as such. The chemical nature would also be same. The only difference that would happen if you use a catalyst for increasing the rate of any chemical reaction is that the reaction will become faster, but the catalyst will itself remain the same. So a same catalyst can be used a multiple amount of time because the catalyst will return to its original form every time the reaction gets completed. But what does a catalyst do? It provides a method of carrying out the reaction under milder conditions, under very less demanding conditions, thereby increasing the output of chemical industry. So the catalysts have a lot of importance where the industries are concerned, whether it is a pharmaceutical industry, whether it is any chemical industry. By using a catalyst, the industries are able to carry out reaction in a shorter amount of time and under the milder conditions. Therefore, the output increases and the yield increases. So, how does a catalyst work? We have taken a look at how the catalysts work when we did transition state theory and the Arrhenius theory. So, let's revise what we did at that time. We said that catalyst provides an alternative pathway for carrying out a reaction. So if I plot a graph of potential energy versus progress of reaction or reaction coordinate for any reaction, then there will be some energy for reactants and some energy for the products, and the reactants will only get converted into products if they cross the saddle, the activation barrier that is there for the reaction to take place. If I now provide a catalyst to this reaction and I use a catalyst for this reaction, then the reaction will be carried out at a faster rate. Why? Because the reactant will form a complex with the catalyst whose energy or the activation energy will be lower than the original path. Therefore, we can say that a catalyst provides an alternative pathway with lower activation energy for carrying out the reactions. So, how do you know that this is happening? Because one, reaction activation energy has got lower, so the reaction is taking place at a shorter time and at a faster rate. Also, the intermediates which will be formed when we are not using a catalyst will be different from the intermediates that will be formed when we are using a catalyst. So the rate of the reactions will change. But does it mean that the rate of the reaction will only change for the forward reaction? No. Catalyst will increase the rate of the reaction for both the forward and a backward reaction. So if I'm studying a reversible reaction, the rate of the forward reaction will also increase, the rate of the backward reaction will also increase. Therefore, if it is a reversible reaction, the equilibrium will be achieved at a faster rate. But the equilibrium concentrations will not change. So a better explanation for this was provided by the transition state theory. So just let's do a recap of what we have already done. This explanation by the activated complex theory or the transition state theory is offered on the basis of the decrease in the Gibbs free energy of activation. According to the theory, the rate constant Kf is given by RT upon C naught NaH exponential minus delta Gf naught by RT, where Kf is the rate constant for the forward direction for an uncatalyzed reaction and delta Gf naught is the standard free energy of activation for an uncatalyzed reaction. If I use a catalyst, then we put a prime over it. So Kf prime is the rate constant for the forward direction for a catalyzed reaction and delta Gf naught prime is the standard free energy of reaction for the catalyzed reaction. So now what happens is that when you use a catalyst, this free energy of activation is lowered for the catalyzed reaction as compared to an uncatalyzed reaction. Therefore, the rate constant values will obviously be higher for the catalyzed reaction as compared to the uncatalyzed reaction. Therefore, we say that the rate of the forward reaction has increased for a catalyzed reaction as compared to the uncatalyzed reaction. But this does not just happen for a forward reaction, this also happens for a backward reaction. So the forward reaction is also increased, the backward reaction is also increased because the free energy of activation has been lowered for both forward and the backward reaction. Now, if that is happening, then the overall free energy change of the reaction will remain the same. So a catalyst has done what? It has lowered the free energy of activation for both forward and backward, thereby increasing the rate of the forward as well as the backward reaction. Therefore, if it is a reversible reaction, then means the equilibrium will be achieved at a faster rate. But does it mean that the concentration of reactants and products will change? No. The proportion of the reactants and the products at equilibrium will remain the same. Now, so since delta G naught has not changed, the equilibrium constant value will also not get changed in the presence of a catalyst. So if I get the value of K equilibrium, which is equal to Kf upon Kb, which will be equal to exponential minus delta Gf naught prime minus delta Gb naught prime upon Rt, then K equilibrium will be same for both the catalyzed and the uncatalyzed reaction. So it is to be emphasized that although the equilibrium will be achieved at a faster rate, the relative proportions of the products and reactants will remain the same. Now, it is important to remember that the use of the catalyst does not vary the delta G and K equilibrium values as has been shown in the previous slides. It means merely changing the pace of the reaction or it is increasing the rate of the reaction. But whether a reaction can proceed or not and to what extent it will proceed is solely determined by the reaction thermodynamics. It has to be understood that a catalyst does not initiate a reaction. A reaction which is not taking place will not take place because you have used a catalyst. A catalyst will only increase the rate of a reaction which is already taking place. So a reaction which was slow will become fast, but a catalyst will not start a reaction. That whether a reaction will take place or not will be determined solely by the thermodynamics. So the reaction thermodynamics is the driving force for a reaction. The presence of the catalyst is only changing the way how this driving force acts on the person. So let's take the example of this reaction where CH4 combines with carbon dioxide to give you 2CO plus 2H2. Now this reaction under two conditions at 100 degrees centigrade has a value of delta G which is positive. So that means at 100 degrees centigrade this reaction is non-spontaneous is nature. So whether I use a catalyst or I do not use a catalyst, it will not take place at 100 degrees centigrade. But the same reaction, if I do at 700 degrees centigrade, then it has a spontaneity. It is a feasible reaction because their delta G value is minus 16 kilojoules per mole. Now if I just take methane and carbon dioxide and mix them together in a reactor, then will the reaction take place? No. Although this reaction is feasible at 700 degrees centigrade, and if I put them together, they will not take place unless I use a catalyst. And the catalyst used in this reaction is platinum zirconium oxide or nickel aluminum. So this, if you put, then this reaction will take place and the conversion can be achieved at less than 100%. So almost 100% is achieved, just slightly less than 100% is there. So to emphasize, if a reaction is not occurring, it is non-spontaneous in nature, the catalyst will not initiate the reaction. But if the reaction is taking place at slower rate, then it will be increased faster. So these are some characteristics that you should note of a catalyst. A catalyst increases the rate of the reaction. It increases the rate of forward and backward, so therefore the equilibrium is achieved at a faster rate, but the proportion of reactants and products will remain the same. You need to use only a small quantity of a catalyst for any reaction, and if a reaction is not occurring at all, then the catalyst will not start the reaction. But if the catalyst is proceeding at a slower rate, then it does increase the rate of the reaction. I will talk about two more things, selectivity and specificity, but a little later. So what are the applications of catalyst? So because a catalyst is allowing the reaction rate to take place, then and increasing the rate of the reaction, therefore almost all the chemical industry, whether it is a pharmaceutical industry, purely chemical industries, will all have usage of catalyst because it increases the productivity and in better process economics is there. Your yield will increase, the reaction will take place under milder conditions, and the speed has increased. It also sometimes improves the selectivity towards the desired products. Less raw material may be probably required or less unwanted waste is produced. Sometimes it may replace the harmful toxic material with readily available ones. Why is this all happening? You do remember that the catalyst is providing you an alternative reaction pathway. So a different reaction is taking place, although the reactants and the products formed at the end will remain the same. So you have a safety here, flexibility involved here, milder conditions, increased productivity. So obviously catalysts have a lot of uses where the industries are in there. Now I was just talking about some of the characteristics of a catalyst. There are two more characteristics that I want to talk about for the catalyst. Now catalyst any material cannot act as a catalyst for any other reaction. There are catalysts which are specific to certain reactions. So catalysts are specific for a reaction. So a catalyst, let's say A, will not probably catalyze conversion of B to C, but may catalyze the conversion of X to Y. So specificity and selectivity is very, very important. So the catalysts are able to promote only the rate of the desired reaction, and sometimes they may in fact retard the rate of the undesired reactions. This selectivity is considered to be more important than the activity, that the rate of the desired reaction is increased, and it is very, very difficult to achieve. So for example, if you want to do a selective oxidation of NO to NO2, then it is only done in the presence of sulfur dioxide. Also one important characteristic is stability. A catalyst should be such it should resist the deactivation. So if I used it once, it should not get poisoned by some other impurities or volatile material, or probably coming in contact with the vessels of the container. So any impurity should not deactivate it. It should be stable to deactivation. So that is one another characteristic which the industry would need if it wants to use a catalyst for its increasing the rate of the reaction. There are you already know that there are reactions like hydrogenation of alkenes which use solid catalyst. Now a solid catalyst have a surface area which is needed for catalysis. So it has to be understood that a surface area should be large for a catalyst to act as a catalyst, a solid catalyst to act as a catalyst. So if I just use if I use just a solid catalyst, then its activity may not be as fast. But if I make it into a porous material, I increase its surface area, then its activity may increase and it is probably more usable as compared to be used as a solid catalyst. So these are some things that you need to know while using a catalyst. Now, how are these catalysts classified? So catalysts are classified on the basis of their physical state, gas, liquid or solid. They're also classified on the basis of the substances from which they are made. So you have inorganic catalysts, you have organic catalysts. They're also classified on the basis of how they work. So you have homogeneous catalysts where the catalyst and the reactants are in the same phase. So we have done reaction of hydrolysis of methyl acetate. So methyl acetase was in the aqueous state. You had other reactant was water, and then you had H plus. All three were in the same phase. So it is an example of a homogeneous catalysis. Similarly, you can also have heterogeneous catalysis in which the catalyst is in a different phase from the reactant. So for example, I just talked about hydrogenation of an ethene. So ethene is in the gaseous phase. And you are doing hydrogenation so ethene is in the gaseous phase, hydrogen is in the gaseous phase, but the catalyst that you are using is platinum or nickel or palladium. Now those are solid catalysts. So a solid catalyst and two gaseous reactants. So this is called as a heterogeneous catalytic system where the catalyst is in a different phase from the reactants. So also the classification of the catalyst can also be done on the basis of their action. So you have acid-base catalysts. We are going to do them in the detail towards as we proceed. Acid-base catalysts, enzymes are also catalysts. They are biological catalysts. You can also have a case of photocatalysis or electrocatalysis, but we are going to do only these two in detail as we proceed. So homogeneous catalysis, let's talk about that. So homogeneous catalysis is the use of a catalyst in the same phase which is as the reacting species. I did give you an example as of now where we use the hydrolysis of methyl acetate. So you had, what were the three things that were there? You had ester, you had water, you had H plus, and all three were in the same phase. H plus was the catalyst and all three were in the same phase. So that's an example of a homogeneous catalyst. Similarly, the oxidation of sulfur dioxide using nitric oxide as a catalyst. So 2SO2 is a gas, 2SO2 gas plus O2 gas gives you 2SO3 gas. So SO2 is a gas, O2 is a gas, and it's giving you sulfur trioxide, which is also a gas. And the catalyst here used is also a gas. Nitric oxide is also a gas. So this is an example of a homogeneous catalysis. Now heterogeneous catalysis, I have already given an example. So where the catalyst is in a different phase from the reacting species, normally a solid catalyst is used. So solid catalysis, I just say ethene, I took an example with hydrogenation, and you're using platinum, palladium, anything as a surface. So these two are gaseous and the catalyst is in a solid phase. So it's an example of a heterogeneous catalysis. Now let's start with the studying of the mechanism of acid catalyzed reactions. Since H plus acts as a catalyst, its concentration remains constant. Therefore, dP by dt can be written as K prime into S, where K prime is a combination of constant and is also represented as KH plus, that is the catalytic coefficient of the hydrogen ions. So with this, we wind up the acid-base catalysis reaction. Now let us try and look at another category of homogeneous catalysis that is called as enzyme catalysis. So what are enzymes? Enzymes are biocatalysts or biological catalysts that act in the living system. These are protein molecules which have molar mass greater than 10,000 and more and are acting as catalysts in the living system. Because they are catalysts, they increase the rate of a reaction. So like all catalysts, they increase the rate of forward as well as backward reaction by decreasing the free energy of activation. The only difference that lies in the enzymes and the inorganic or the organic catalysts are that the enzyme catalyzed reactions are highly specific in nature. That is, enzymes are highly specific in nature. Whereas we did talk about the specificity of the catalysts which are there, but although they are specific, but for each reaction you can have multiple catalysts. But in the case of enzyme, there is going to be a particular substrate for a particular enzyme. So the specificity is so high. And why is this specificity there? This is because of their configuration. They have a fixed configuration because their protein structure, and in the active sites only those substrates which can bind to that active site will be catalyzed by the reaction. This was explained by Emil Fischer in 1894, who said that the enzymes are the lock and only those substrates which have a complementary structure to the active site of the enzyme will be catalyzed. So substrate are the key and enzymes are the lock. And this lock and key model explains how the specificity of the enzymes arise. Now let's just look at this diagram which shows that the enzyme is this. So there is a 3D configuration, it has a rigid structure, and this substrate which has a complementary structure to this rigid active site. And so a substrate which will bind to this enzyme will only be catalyzed, which will result in the formation of products. So now let us look at the kinetics of the enzyme catalyst reaction. This was first explained by Michaelis and Menten, and therefore it is called as Michaelis-Menten mechanism or Michaelis-Menten kinetics. So in this, enzyme combines with substrate through the rate constant K1. This is a reversible reaction. So in the backward direction the rate constant is K minus 1. This enzyme substrate can decompose to give you product and the enzyme back through the rate constant K2. So whenever we have a mechanism, what is it that we do? We apply the rate law, and so the rate law here is dP by dt is equal to K2 into ES. This is called as a reaction velocity. So dP by dt is equal to K2 into ES. So ES is the concentration of the enzyme substrate complex, and it is an intermediate. So whenever we have an intermediate in the rate law, we apply steady state approximation to it. So let's apply steady state approximation to it. In the first step, with the rate constant K1, ES is formed. So K1 ES. In this reverse direction, it is being consumed. So minus K minus 1 ES. In the second step, it is again getting consumed. So minus K2 ES. And this, because it is a steady state approximation, should be equal to 0, because we know di by dt is equal to 0. So this is equal to 0. Now let us assume that the initial concentration of the enzyme is equal to E0. So after the reaction has taken place, there will be some free enzyme and there will be some bound enzyme. The bound enzyme is with the substrate, and then there is this free enzyme. So at any given time, the free concentration of the enzyme can be represented as E0 minus ES. Let us substitute into the steady state approximation equation and we get this kind of expression. So let us find out the value of enzyme substrate concentration. That will be equal to K1 E0 S upon K minus 1 plus K2 plus K1S. Let's divide numerator and denominator by K1. So we get E0 upon 1 plus K minus 1 plus K2 upon K1S. Now this expression is an expression for the enzyme substrate concentration. Let us substitute it into the reaction velocity. dP by dt is equal to K2 ES. So we get an expression for reaction velocity. Another thing that I would like to introduce here is there is a term called as Km. So Km, let us represent Km as a combination of the constant, which is K minus 1 plus K2 upon Km. So Km is a combination of K minus 1 plus K2 upon K1. So if I substitute here, therefore dP by dt will be equal to K2 ES, which is equal to K2 E0 upon 1 plus Km into S. The constants Km and K2 are the characteristics constants for a particular enzyme catalyzed reaction. And when K minus 1 is very much greater than K2, when K minus 1 is very much greater than K2, then Km will be equal to K minus 1 upon K2. That is, it represents the dissociation constant of the enzyme substrate complex. So, therefore, dP by dt can be written as K2 E naught upon 1 plus Km into S. Now, let us apply the two cases to the Michaelis-Menten kinetics when the concentration of the substrate is low or when the concentration of the substrate is very high. Let's apply the first case. When the concentration of substrate is very low, that is, it tends to 0. When it tends to 0, this expression V is equal to K2 E naught upon 1 plus Km by S can be written as K2 E naught into S upon Km. That is, the reaction is first order with respect to the enzyme concentration and is also first order with respect to substrate. So, V is equal to K2 E naught upon Km into S. So, if the concentration of the substrate is low, then the reaction is first order with respect to enzyme and is first order with respect to substrate. But what happens in the second case? When the concentration of substrate is very high, that is, it tends to infinity. If that tends to infinity, this term Km upon S will become negligible. So, we can write V is equal to K2 E naught. So, we come to another term which is called as Vmax. First, this reaction at high concentration of substrate has become zero order with respect to the substrate. Then another term Vmax. What is Vmax? It is the maximum reaction velocity. And when is this taking place? When all of the enzyme has combined with the substrate. So when all the enzyme has combined with the substrate, the reaction will be at its maximum speed. And that is what it is represented. So K2 E naught is equal to V, which gives the maximum possible reaction rate for the enzyme reaction at a given concentration of enzyme. Let's take a look at the typical variation of reaction velocity versus substrate concentration. So we plot a graph of reaction velocity versus substrate concentration. We see that the reaction is first order with respect to S and its slope is given by Vmax upon Km. But at high concentration of S, the rate becomes zero order with respect to S and the slope is in fact equal to 0. So from the data at low and high concentrations, both Vmax and Vmax by Km can be determined. And if we know the value of Vmax, then K2 can also be determined. But sometimes what happens is, it is not possible to obtain the data close enough to the plateau region to determine the value of Vmax. Then in that case, we use another method called as Lineweaver-Burke method, which is that we plot a graph of 1 by V versus 1 by S. If we plot a graph of 1 by V versus 1 by S, we get a slope which is equal to Km upon Vmax and an intercept which is equal to 1 by Vmax. So, this Lineweaver-Burke method can be used to calculate the Vmax values much more appropriately as compared to the previous graph. But sometimes what happens is that this method involves a considerable extrapolation to the intercept. Since a small absolute uncertainty in 1 by Vmax may produce a large relative uncertainty in the value of Vmax, an alternative graphical method called ED plot is used, where we plot a graph of V by S versus V. So when we plot a graph of V by S versus V, we get a slope which is equal to minus 1 by Km and an intercept is equal to Vmax upon Km. So this plot can be used where there is more uncertainty in the values of the intercept in the Lineweaver-Burke method. So both eddy plot and the Lineweaver-Burke plot are sometimes used together, or they can be also used instead of each other in the determination of values of Vmax and Km. So with this, we wind up with the Michaelis-Menten kinetics and the enzyme catalyzed reactions. So just to recapitulate what we have done in the today's class, we looked at what are catalysts, how do they act, what are the various kinds of catalyzed reactions. Then we took a look in detail at the acid-base catalyzed reactions and the enzyme catalyzed reactions through the kinetic mode. Now We will be starting with a new topic called photochemistry in the next class. So let's revise what we have done on our own. So thank you for now. Stay home, stay safe, and take care of your health.